Okay, actors, this one is going to be controversial, especially if you've gone to one of the prestigious acting schools out there. Not a knock. You have my respect. You had what it takes to get in, you had what it takes to succeed and to graduate. Nothing but love. However, my next guest, he's going to challenge your theories, he's going to challenge your methods. And I think he's worth a listen because this man has definitely helped change the game for me. So let's hop on in as we go beyond the take. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is me, host, actor, producer, Marc Chouen, here with a very special guest. This man has helped me with my craft beyond belief here. I've been with him for what, about a year and a half now? I lost track of time, but ladies and gentlemen, give it up for actor, acting coach, author, podcast host, Jeff Seymour.
Hey, nice to see you, Mark. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Dude, absolutely. Listen, I know how busy your schedule is, so like I really appreciate you taking time here, sitting down, talking about the craft of acting, the state of the industry, and everything. But let's get right into it, man. Look, people, I think, have this concept of acting coaches. Oh, disgruntled actors that are just teaching whatever. That's not the case for you.
No.
Like, far from it. You are a successful actor, and yet here you are. You're training actors. What made you fall into this? Like, what gravitated towards you towards that?
Well, good question. First of all, I come from a family of teachers. My dad was a teacher from when he was 18 till he was 93. And 30 of those years he taught at the CIA as a linguist. And two of my brothers were very successful coaches, sports coaches. And when I was going to the theater school I went to, I think I knew I was going to be teaching when I got out because I had other ideas about how it should have gone. I went to a conventional school, where they did all the stuff. We were told to read Stanislavski and Uta Hagen and Stella Adler and all that stuff, the usual suspects. So unusual to most coaches, I started teaching immediately after I graduated. So that's why I've been teaching for 45 years. I have been in the business for 46. So I started in 1979. And then in 1980, I started teaching. So I'd really just graduated. And then that following year, I started teaching in my living room. And the students were actually people I had just graduated with from the school who were my first guinea pigs. I think what drew me to it, aside from, well, it was primarily I had a new idea for how acting should go. I just didn't feel like those usual suspects. I felt they were a bit antiquated. I just thought there had to be a better way to do things. And so the entire time I was having an acting career, I was teaching in real time. So I was able to, the things that I was experiencing, the auditions I was going on, the gigs I was getting. And I was very much into a new way of looking at acting, which I started developing really in 1980. I mean, it's called the real life actor approach now. I think I named it that when I wrote my first book called The Real Life Actor. It just seemed very appropriate because my approach to it is very different from the conventional approach. And while I am kind of the black sheep because mine is so different than everyone else, it just makes such common sense. Honestly, I'm amazed that people still teach the old school stuff that has to do with, of course, choices and beats and objectives and all of this terminology. Not to say that in essence, I don't speak to those needs in a scene, but I don't. I'm against acting terminology. I'm against any sort of framing in the acting world. I think it's really a silly exercise. And I just think it really has to go away. I think that there has to be a shift in the paradigm now. I think all that old stuff that was developed in the middle of the last century and before is just old school stuff. And I know there are going to be people listening to this saying, how dare you? Well, there's been progress in everything, in all kinds of teaching and all kinds of sports training, everything. But for some reason, we're supposed to just bow to what some people came up with in the last century. I always draw the analogy of, at one time, wooden tennis rackets won Wimbledon, but no one would ever think to use a wooden tennis racket today. That's the way it is with many things. But for some reason, people want to have this reverence for these people that were smart in their day. I mean, they had things going on. They were there for a reason. In fact, I have a podcast that speaks to it. It's called Brief History of Acting Training and Why It Has to Change. And I give them their due props. But having been one of the few teachers that's been an actor his whole life, that's actually acted, and I've run my own theater that I built, designed and built and ran for 10 years and directed and produced everything. I had my own TV show that I created that I ran for 2 years. I've done things, and so I can apply what I know and what actually happens in the real world to my way of teaching. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if anyone complains, I have to say that whenever I get a message from someone saying, how dare you?
You
I
get
look
that
at
often?
no, I don't. I really don't. And it's a really nice thing. I'm always shocked when I do. When someone comes in and they're so angry, the first thing I do is I look them up on IMDb. And if anyone is with me, I say, I guarantee you this person has either never worked or has worked a little bit. And to this day, I've never been wrong. So before any of you listening to this think about complaining, just know I'm going to look up your IMDb.
Got receipts.
That means that you're coming from a place of never having worked and having spent my entire life going on a half a century in this. And I mean, full time. I've never had a regular job. I've only worked as an actor, director, writer, or teacher. That's all I've ever done. So to come up against me and say, well, I know better because I've done 3 shorts and I just graduated school. I mean, I appreciate your chutzpah, but maybe you ought to go out and get something done first and then tell me how well whatever it is you were taught works. But make it work first, not in theory. Actually go get a bunch of gigs on the national stage. And I don't mean shorts you make with your friends, although I think that is fabulous. I think you all should do that. But to qualify, I think you need to go onto the national arena. You have to get a job on television. You have to make actual movies, SAG, movies, or work in theater, equity theater. You do a whole bunch of that. And then you come tell me what it was that got you there. And we can have a real discussion. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Because you see, to me, when you've been in the business as long as I have, after 46 years, you understand how hard it is just to be standing upright still, because this is the hardest business in the world.
It's getting harder.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like being a war veteran. Like I have done, 6 tours. And then you have somebody come along, he's got a BB gun, and he wants to know what, the war is like. I know that might be a crass analogy, but it's
No, but
kind
it's
of
spot on.
it's a lot how a lot of people feel that have been in the business a long time. You get started, you go, oh, I'm in it to win it, Okay, well, in 10 years, tell me, 15 years, tell me, because this thing will grind you into dust, man. It is a very, very difficult business. And so those are my feelings. But yes, I have a whole different approach. And I've written 4 books about it and 172 podcasts about it. And I've traveled around the world teaching it. And, I've done stuff in the industry that's noteworthy.
You're a professional through and through. You talk about these methods in the past, right? These methods that actors would often put on a pedestal, right? And with yours, yeah, I mean, as much as you say it's different, I feel like you're right, though. It just makes sense. Like, I mean, like, I spent a long time like auditing different classes, trying to find the right class for me, especially during the pandemic. And a friend of mine recommended me to you. I was like, holy shit, this guy, that's it. He's awesome. I need to work with this guy. And I haven't looked back since. But for you, when you first started doing this, right? When you first started like that, things need to be different here. When did it start clicking for you? Like, my shit works.
Well, certainly, I mean, right out of my theater school, I managed to get a job. I was heavily influenced, I have to say, by only one person, and that person didn't teach at the school. He came by to do some guest teaching, and I recognized him. I'm old enough to have known that this man, Milton Seltzer, who was a journeyman actor who, his resume said over 500 TV shows. I mean, the man worked like every week back in the day when that's what guest stars did. Things have changed a bit. But his approach was so practical, so no nonsense, so common sense based that it really fell in step with what I was thinking because I'm kind of made that way. Common sense works better for me. And so, I started training. And to get back to reasons why I started training, I think it was a very selfish reason. I wanted to create an environment where I could have these guinea pigs walk in, these actors, and then I could impose ideas on them and I could see if they worked. And then the real litmus test was in the mid 80s, I opened up what went on to be one of the most successful small theaters in Los Angeles, just successful theaters in Los Angeles. I think we won some 60 awards there, 60, including a very prestigious award they give out to one person per year in LA. And that's the Publishers Award for ongoing excellence in theater. And that's I'm up against the biggest theaters, whatever. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm using it to qualify the fact that I'm not just some guy blathering on. Other people said, yeah, that stuff works because, I had a string of hits. So in answer to your question, and I had a house next door. There was a deli that I gutted, designed, and built the theater. My house was about 18 feet away from it. So theater for 10 years was my life. That's all I did. And it was a brilliant laboratory because first of all, I had to live off what I made from box office. So the shows had to work, which meant the reviewers had to really like my stuff. That's the only way you get by. And so I was able to sit like in this laboratory, work with actors, see how it worked, because you never knew when the critics were going to show up. So I had to figure out a way to get actors to work to where whatever night the critics came, they were going to be brilliant all the time. Now, if or Stella Adler's or Stanislavski's, if any of these methods could have ensured the likelihood of excellence night after night, of course I would have used them. You don't have to pay royalties. I could have just used it, but I quickly found out that all those things didn't work. And that was also kind of highlighted by the fact that the best actors, and I got to work with a lot of wonderful actors who worked all the time in the industry as professionals. I would watch how they worked. I'd watch how they prepared. I'd watch their language, how they spoke to me, what they needed from me. And all of these things helped me to create this real life actor method, which I found could ensure my success in one of the toughest arenas, and that is live because there's no cutting. I can't
No.
go and fix it or use take 7. It's tonight. The LA Times, the Daily News, the LA Weekly are all sitting there watching, and this is going to determine whether I'm going to eat properly.
Right.
So, this is real business, and I had to pressure check this stuff forever. So that's kind of what I've spent 45 years doing with this. And
That's
that's when I
amazing.
knew it was working. When you get shows that become Critics' Choice and you win awards and people rave about the work in the show, it's fabulous. Now, of course, when a show's great, what tends to happen is they always forget that there was a director involved. The show's great, they talk about all the actors. And when it stinks, they wonder who the director was. That's the
Yeah, exactly. But I mean that it's smart though because like I've through my many years of doing this, like I've come across different methods, right? And like before you, it didn't just seem like every role called for something different. Like Stanislavski, the method, it's not. For me, like it was like this is not like one size fits all for every role. Same with the other methods, but with yours, it's definitely consistent. You can apply that to any role.
anything, any role. You see, and here's the thing. This is why I say there's a shift in the paradigm. My approach isn't just another approach. It is completely different in one simple fact, and that is, as far as I'm concerned, if you discuss acting, if you use any acting terminology, any acting framing, any kind of terminology, if you talk about it in a way that humans don't talk about a similar situation in life, it's over. This stuff is done. It's over. And what do I mean? Well, it's very simple, and I'll just give you the whole thing that created my approach. One day, I was as a kid in his early 20s, I was sitting there thinking, what am I trying to achieve? What do we try to achieve as actors? Well, it seemed to me we want to replicate life in such a way that people would never guess we were acting. It would just completely blend. You wouldn't look and go, "Oh, what great acting." You would just completely fall into whatever the scene is. We would replicate human behavior in a way that that would be seamless. There would be no difference. We certainly don't want to be doing our thing and people going, "Oh, look at all that acting." No, it's that you forget for a moment, or on the way home, you think, wow, he did that in front of a whole crew of people. That was a movie I just saw. And you get so caught up in this stuff that you cry and you feel sick that the character died, yet you know that tomorrow night they're going to be on some talk show. This kind of behavior, this kind of being able to fully be the thing you say you are, that is what I decided. Okay, well, if that's what we're doing, in other words, I would say then the best work I've ever done in my life was in real life. I mean, I've always thought, boy, when I've lost my anger, been romantic, been funny, been sad, whatever those moments were, those intense moments in my life, I've always thought, boy, I would love to be able to do that when I act. That's all I ever think about. Like right now, I've been completely unaware of my body, where my arms are, but I feel like I'm so present. I really feel like I'm focused on the stuff I should be focused on, what I'm talking about. I mean, I feel I have some control over what I'm doing. I think I know what I'm trying to say. Some people may say, try harder, Jeff, but this is my best. If I was playing me or a guy like me, and I was trying to explain myself to a guy like you, this is about as good as I do it. So the next question I asked myself when I came to that determination, that realization, I said, then what is it I think about that gets me to these moments, to my saddest moments, pardon me, to my saddest moments, to my happiest moments, to my funniest moments? What is it that's going on in my head? And I knew immediately nothing to do with acting. I never think about acting in these moments at all. I mean, inadvertently, if I'm discussing my idea about acting compared like I am here, but to the point, I never break anything down I'm doing in acting terms. Now, someone might say, yeah, but you don't know what's going to happen. In acting, you know what's going to happen. I'd quickly say, yeah, we know what's going to happen sometimes. I know I'm going to go have a discussion with my girlfriend, my boss, my neighbor, my landlord, my whoever. I know there's going to be a conflict. I know what I'm going to say. I know what they're probably going to say. And I work on this stuff, but I never use any acting terminology. I never think, what's my objective? I never say, what choice am I going to make? We do, but it's a very different way that we do it, you see. I mean, when I do discuss acting, as you well know, we inadvertently do kind of discuss what we're trying to get done and choice we're probably going to make. But I don't use those terminology. I don't use any terminology that you don't use in real life. That's why I call it the real life actor. Now, what does that do for us? Well, one of the things is we don't have to fall into that thing of saying a bunch of acting garbage, acting choices, beats, underlying this, that. Okay, now forget about all that and just act the scene. I don't punk people that way by filling their heads with a bunch of acting gobbledygook and then hope that they can set it all aside and then somehow magically act the scene without thinking about all the stuff that they're destined to do because we've set it up. On your third beat, you got to do this. You have an action verb here. You're playing a tortoise in the first beat. Whatever this silly nonsense is that people talk, I cannot believe they still do it. My goal before I die is really to try and change the way acting is taught in the world.
No, and it's amazing to see. You recently hosted a live session in New York City that I brought some friends to, and to see like in real time, like what you were able to do with the actors, and it was cool because like normally in the Zoom classes, like I'm so involved, right? So I'm like directly involved with it. So to take that back seat and just really see the magic unfold with people you've never worked with before,
That's right.
it was so awesome to see. It was like in real time, no pun intended with a real life actor, but like in real time, like this the switch was amazing.
I know, and I'm not saying that to congratulate myself. I'm saying it because look, one of the reasons why I didn't call it the Seymour method or some such nonsense is because I don't think that I should be able to trademark or copyright common sense. So I feel like what I talk about and my approach really has to do with just common human sense. There's no gobbledygook. It's not stupid trickery. It's not nonsense. So it is that. And I know that when I impose it on people, it always works. And that's the other thing I say is that if you're in a class and the teacher tells the actor something and they don't immediately get better, that isn't a good teacher.
Mm.
The problem is in most acting classes, when that happens, actors will always blame the actor. They'll go, well, I understood what he meant. Because the teacher will say, well, you got to make a stronger choice, pal. You got to want it more. Did you do enough backstory? They'll say this stuff. These students will listen and go, yeah, they didn't make a strong enough choice. They probably don't have a good enough backstory. Yeah. So when they fail again, those go, well, they didn't want it enough. They need to make stronger choices, whatever that means, like be funnier. Yes, definitely. But if the teacher can't fix it, then the teacher is at fault, not the actor. And, listen, I've had a good career as an actor. I don't consider myself a hack at all. I've done some good work. I've won some awards. But man, I would have a teach off with anyone on the planet, anywhere, at any time.
I would
If
love
there
to
was
see
a
that.
way that could be set up where there could be a crowd that could decide what actors improve the quickest, the fastest, with the most clarity, man, I'm all in. I'll meet you in Paris. I'll meet you anywhere in the world because I know that I am more effective, and not because I consider myself a genius, but because I think all these other people are hamstrung and hobbled with nonsense work, nonsense gobbledygook where they just talk and they say things, these platitudes, like I heard one the other day. Don't memorize, humanize. And I think, wow, okay, that sounds cool and it kind of rhymes. But what does that mean, man? What does that mean? See, but
It's a
people
cool
listen,
T-shirt.
they listen to that and they go, man, that's so cool. Don't memorize, humanize. What? How? What is that? But that's the kind of stuff. It's like saying, you got to conquer the possibilities. And people go, yeah. How though? This is the problem, you see? So anybody wants to teach off, man, I'm all in. I'm all in.
The challenge is out there. So, like, I feel like I know the answer to this, but for you, is it easier to train an actor that's just coming in, no training background whatsoever, as opposed to someone that say that stayed for years, Stella Adler or
Yeah,
insert prominent school here?
that's that's a really good question. And I would say, Mark, I'd say that it is a level playing field as long as the person that has gotten all that stuff stuck in their head with all that other nonsense, as long as they are open. If they are open, no problem. One easy lesson, I will start to turn them around. They will see progress immediately. The only problem I have with people that have gotten all that other training is they get way in their head, and most of them, as a result of having spent $30,000, $80,000 in training, they get really defensive.
Right, right. I can see that. Yeah.
Because the hardest thing is, don't tell me that all that stuff is stupid. When I try to get to them, I say, okay, let's look at it this way. So you have a teacher that taught you this stuff, yeah? Okay. Has that teacher ever worked? I don't mean in Bonanza as the ranch hand or in I Dream of Jeannie as, the third soldier. I mean, have they actually done work on a regular basis?
Right.
Yeah, they haven't. Okay. But for whatever reason, you want to believe them over someone who has a fairly diversified resume. I mean, I've done a little of everything. So I find that remarkable. I think really. So the war veteran, forget it, but some guy who read some books and he teaches and he owns two BB guns, is somebody that you would think, and I don't mean to put those people down. It's just wherever you go, if somebody's going to train you, and and I'll say this, whatever they come up with, if it illuminates your path, even if it's gobbledygook by other people's standards, if your work is amazing afterwards, if you start booking job after job after job, then you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do whatever they say. Perfect. That never happens. But what I'm speaking to are the people that sit in these classes, they're confused, but because, I don't know, there's some fading 8 buttons on the wall of people that supposedly trained here, they feel compelled to just nod their head up trying to figure out, why can't I get it? I want to be an actor. I want to work. I just don't get it. And they'll sit there and torture themselves rather than stop and go, wait a second. Let me look and see if this person's ever worked. No. Okay. Well, maybe I should at least let that kind of temper what this person's saying. Take that into account. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
And that makes so much sense. I mean, like, ideally, you wanna work with someone who's been there, who's been to the dance, right? To at least get at the very least, get to that level, as the teacher as a teacher before you. I'm curious, lots of different methods out there. Is there one in particular that jumps to mind? It's the hardest to break through when, like, as opposed to, like, when someone comes to your class, they've had years of this one certain style of training that's harder for you to break through because they're stuck into that.
Well, unfortunately, they're all about the same because they really make you see, the problem with traditional acting and where it's different from life is it kind of forces you, begs you, entices you to go in. It's all about in me, my, stare into my navel. What am I feeling? How am I doing? What is my state? What is and it's so inward, that you just sit there cooking and thinking. So now you're way in your head and you're turned inward. That, when that happens, to get you out of that, to get you out of that kind of thinking and to go outward, because communication is about going outward, is about looking at other people and focusing on other people and getting other people to feel things. There's too much of a preoccupation with the machinery, you see. And I've got long explanations as to why this is. And again, my podcast, a brief, history of acting training, why has to change, is I take it all the way back to, silent films and the kind of acting they were doing and how they had to get out of that and how, the Moscow Art Theater, the group theater, all these people were trying to figure out, like, what is reality, man? We don't walk into a room and go, hello, darling, and sit there kind of like we're on stage talking, these people started thinking, wait, that's not how we walk into a room. So then it was like, sit, feel the hot water, drink it. Oh, it's hot. Feel the sun on your face. That was a way to try and break people down, to get them to stop and think, come on, what is actual reality? Stop acting. You don't walk into a room and go, hello, darling. So once that happened, I think it became a thing of like, how low can you go? How deep can you go? How neurotically deep can you go? How fixated can you be? And then there's some people that people might have thought glorified that, James Dean, Montgomery Clift, of course, Brando. And I think they kind of took it wrong. I think these were just irreverent actors who kind of did their own thing to nobody's music. But I think that once you go in like that, it's hard to pull you out. But if I were going to answer your question, I'd say maybe anyone that's really been in one of these classes where it's almost a cult, because they
Ah,
are the most defensive. The reason why I don't draw a distinction between someone who's had a lot of training and someone who hasn't, the commonality is these two people have lived life every single day, and they've been out doing real stuff, having real situations with real people all the time. And since my approach speaks to that and nothing else, I can generally get this person who's had too much of ridiculous training and this person who's never trained, and kind of bring them to the center quite quickly, as long as they're open, as
right.
long as they're just willing to try something. It's no problem for me to get them to turn around if they're open. And it's done immediately because, as I said, everyone lives life every day. There's nothing we do more except breathe than communicate. We communicate more than we sleep, because from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed, we're communicating, we're practicing, we're having situations occur. You're constantly sharpening that blade. every day of your life. So I speak to that and nothing else. And so no matter where you're from, so the only thing that can encumber that is if you are have some kind of cult mentality and without realizing it, you are still beholden to your last teacher and this is blasphemy. Most people that come to me, I guess unless it was as at gunpoint, they wouldn't really come to learn with me if that were the case. And they're stuck in these cults,
Yeah.
and they never work.
No, I mean, no, for sure. And, I often say too, I feel like these acting schools, as prestigious as they are, like they feel like you see like not as many students to come out of there, graduate working consistently as they
No,
should. And like, I don't know if it's part of it is because of like, outdated methods, or I personally have said a lot of times too, it's like they don't necessarily teach like the business side of acting because there is a business side to this.
there
And if
is.
you don't have that, I think that will actually hurt you in the long term.
I would agree. I would say that you're absolutely right there. But I think that also the style of acting has changed from when those prestigious places, whether you want to say Juilliard or the American Academy or HB Studios or whatever they are, when they first started and those methods and approaches were kind of, really coming to, the style of acting now is hyper realistic.
Yeah.
You go into, in the old days of being in a room when we go there live to audition, they'd walk out and go, "Hey, the director doesn't want to see any acting, no acting, no acting." Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not a serial murderer, so there's going to be a little, but what they're really saying is they don't want to see acting, you see. So we've gone to a point where what is heralded is this like, you just think, wow, where did they get that guy? Where did they get that gal? I mean,
Yeah.
this is so real. I forget I'm watching film. Is this a documentary? I mean, practically. So I don't think that they're equipped to be able to train people in that way because, of course, they're using this antiquated wooden tennis racket nonsense.
What do you think of, like, for example, Sean Baker for, the Florida Project? I don't know if you've seen that movie, but,
The
one of
Florida Project?
the
Is there
Florida Project, yeah. Yeah,
Well, he just won 4 Oscars. What am I gonna
yeah,
say about him?
right,
He
but
seems
he
to know how to coax people into doing this realistic stuff, but it's not just real because real means nothing. As Hitchcock said, it's not a slice of life, it's the frosting. It's the sweetest, most concentrated portion. That's what we show the audience. So he finds a way to get people to really do this stuff where the
he
kids really
does.
seem like kids. I mean, that
Ha
is tricky stuff. To make a kid actually seem like a kid is no easy feat. And he's able to do that. He's able to, and the reason for that is, again, he gets them to go back to what they know, which is how they really behave in life. But he knows how to speak to actors, to coax it. Then he knows how to cut it, to put it together, to package it, to show us what feels like seamless real life.
right,
So,
and, to the point, like, the mom in that movie, who was a significant role, was not an actress. He found her on Instagram,
yeah.
and more, I feel like you can start hearing stories like that, like,
Oh,
social
yeah.
media
How about
influencer.
the fighter, the woman who I guess won the Oscar, I think, but then her 4 sisters were just these whatever they were, those women that were with her, apparently they weren't actors either. They were just these people that were so authentic. And when people say, "How is that possible?" Well, of course, look at the guy on, Captain Phillips. I mean, the
Yes,
nominated for an Oscar.
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. We have been learning to communicate since we cried out for mom's milk. We learned to negotiate. I cry, I get milk. And from there, we just worked our way through our adolescence. We sharpen that stuff. The trick is, for me as a coach, is how can I get you to use the skills that you have and bring it as easily, as simply as possible to the work? How can I do that? It's not by way of talking about acting. It's not by I mean, there are times when people tell me some method or some crazy thing they're being taught. It makes me just want to get out of the business. I feel embarrassed. I think,
Does it get
why would I be a part of anything where this nonsense is being done? I feel like I'm being tainted by association.
Does it get worse now with the emergence of social media? Like, I feel like you go on Instagram and more you have these like so-called, acting gurus on there sharing this whack advice.
Yeah.
does that come do you see that at all? Does it
Of course, because I have Instagram and I put that stuff out, and people send me stuff and say, "Get a load of this." And the thing is all I would ever say to anyone is, "Okay, just look them up on IMDb. I guarantee you they haven't done anything.
Oh, but
They
Jeff,
haven't
they have
done
20,000 views. What are you talking about?
People listen to it, but you see
Right.
the people that are doing that, you know who gets me the hardest are the people that have worked,
Yeah.
which is kind of unfortunate and fortunate. First of all, it's fortunate because I love the respect of people that have had big careers that read my book or listen to my stuff and go, wow, that's it right there. I really am grateful. It makes me feel good. The downside is that all these young people that actually need what I'm doing are more attracted to all this other nonsense because they supposedly taught so and so, so and so, and so and so. I can't tell you how many times people have said, Jeff, why don't you just do a list of the people that you've trained or trained? And to me, that's always been attorney-client privilege. One, I don't talk about it. Two, it feels like stolen valor to me. Like, oh, so I'm going to claim their success because they trained with me. I get the association. I understand. But what goes into getting a career and making it happen isn't going to an acting class, even if I give them the best stuff, even if I can slicken up and get them to hit that ball. I've got them to where they can drive that ball 300. Okay, fabulous. I've taught them how to putt, and they can putt really well, and they got a great short game, if I can use this analogy of golf. But until you've been in a tournament, you have no idea how hard this is. Now, two of my brothers were teaching pros, so I know all about it because I've caddied in tournaments. I couldn't believe the pressure. My brother would have to sink this 12-foot putt on the final hole or he loses. You don't know what that's like till you've been there. So the idea that because I taught a guy how to drive a ball, 240 yards. Oh, yeah, I taught him. No, yeah, okay. But I didn't instill in him. There's no way you can do that stuff, man. That's all you. Also, just being able to figure out how to live, how to stand up straight, how to just keep from losing your goo. There's way too much that has to do with that person for me to feel okay about taking credit. I just, it sickens me, especially since I know also that all a person has to do, I could give a person, and I do. I have people that are on television that have had big careers, want a consultation or, me to go over one thing with them. Most coaches are going, oh, I taught that guy before I trained that guy. And I think, "Oh, come on. That guy was that guy before I met him." The other thing I can tell you is that of all the people that I've taught that go on to be stars and get their own shows and do the things they do, I knew the day I met them, I thought, there's a good chance this person's going to take off.
What made you say that, though?
You could just, they had chops, man. And I tell them
Yeah.
that in front of everyone, but I generally send them an email after saying, you got serious chops, man. If you can hang in, you're going to work. And the only time I'm wrong is when someone just thinks, and I've tried to fix that in the past. I've said, no, you got to do it. And it's like you blow up a blimp that has a hole in the other end. And when you walk away, it just deflates. So I realized, wow, part of having talent is having the talent to persevere and stick to it and want it. And some people who I've met have had, right out of the box, they were amazing. I thought they could definitely work. They just didn't want it. But
Wow.
the people that did want it, and I can recall many times I said, you're going to do just fine. And, they're all over the place. So again, for me to take credit, it's not like there were a little lump of cancerous clay and formed or something. I mean, and this is what these people do. And I know it attracts actors. I get it. They see the 8x10, they hear the story. Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio, blah, blah, blah. I'm a kingmaker. And I think, okay, all right, if you're a kingmaker, shouldn't you be making a king like at least every 6 months? At least once a year. At least once a year. Because all the people come to you. And generally anyone who's really talented, consider they say, who's the best in the business? And if that person's on the top, they go there. Okay, well then you went there. But you didn't make that guy king. You didn't make that lady a king. So what happened? I'll tell you
Mhm.
what happened. 2, 3 people happened to come through their shop that were destined to be who they were anyway.
Wow.
They became those people, and this guy's been trading on it forever. Well, if it's a magic wand, how come you just can't hit any kid that comes in? But unfortunately, all these kids come in. So I did a different thing. I said, I'm going to do a podcast. I've got 172, as I mentioned. People will listen to it. They'll read my books. They'll look at my videos. If this makes sense, they will come to me. And for that reason, I will train them. But I'm not going to put up things and say, you too can be, come on.
Jeff, I mean, I could talk to you about this all day long, but I feel like now is the natural point. I think where I should ask you for you to plug your podcast, your books, how people can find you as far as like going to you for Zoom sessions or even in person. Tell them.
Well, first of all, the handle is always Real Life Actor. So I have Real Life Actor podcasts. There's 172. You can just scan the titles, see some that you're attracted to, and listen to it. I have 4 books out. 2 of them are coming out. One's out on Audible. Next one will be out this week. Showing Up Like a Pro. That tells you everything from the moment you get your email telling you to show up on set till you sign out. Everything I've learned running a set. I ran my own show for 2 years. I know all the inside about what you do, what you don't do, how to get the most out of everything and come off like a pro. And it's real simple to understand. I have, of course, I happen to have a couple of them here. I have the OG book. That was the first one I wrote, The Real Life
Oh,
Fact. And this is the next one I'm doing for Audible. But that'll lay it all out for you. I have a book called Directing Talent, which I wrote for directors, but I would encourage actors to read it too. Here's my book, Showing Up Like a Pro. This is that book I talked about. And I have the one for directors called Directing Talent, which is how to be an actor whisperer. And not only that, but because I ran my own show for 2 years, how to pick the best crew, how to deal with everyone, everything from picking your heads of departments to dealing with notes from the studios, to dealing with actors, drunk actors, everything there is to get the best out of everyone and truly be an actor's director. But I would encourage, and also the end of it's for directing theater, which of course I've got a lot to say about. But I would say that actors should read it too, because it'll give you the frame of mind of the people that are running the set and what's important to them.
mm,
It wasn't until I directed and wrote and produced that I understood how easy a job it is to be an actor. And I don't mean to belittle actors at all. I'm an actor myself. Yes, we gotta cry and yell and do all the stuff, but come on, man. You sit in your dressing room, there's a knocks on the door, "Mr. Seymour, 5 minutes." And then while you're walking there, "Can I get you something? Would you like an apple? What color? Green. I'll be right back." And then you're done, and then some card takes you home. I mean, yes, I guess it's a little hard, but not at all. You be a director, you be a writer, you be a producer. And when you understand how hard all that stuff is and what they actually have to do, it really gives you a different frame of mind, and what it does is you have a much healthier view of what it is you do. You're not so, "Oh, it's so hard." You think, "I'm the luckiest person in the world." And
mm.
so then all the trials and tribulations on set suddenly don't mean as much to you because you see it as you have a much better view of everything. So I'd recommend that book. The final book is called The Real Life Actor Scene Study Workbook. And I wrote 32 original scenes from everything from farce to, heavy psychological drama, like 3, 4 page scenes. And I do an essay after each one talking about the way you should look at this, what to think about, basically my approach. And then once you've done it a few times and rehearsed it, you go to the back of the book and I have yet another essay so that I can kind of replicate what it's like to work with me, and getting a series of notes from me. And you see, it has nothing to do with acting. I don't discuss acting. So those are the 4 books. Of course, I've got my Instagram where I have about 140 videos. And certainly
Yeah,
look me up. They can just info at Real Life Actor. Go to my website, Real Life Actor website. Everything is there. It was just redone by a really, really bright lady that did it for me. And it's a lot of fun. I really love what she did, but everything is there and you can figure out how to study with me live or when I come to different cities or whatever. It's all there. I'm happy to talk to anyone on Tuesday nights at 5 p.m. PDT, I offer a free Zoom class. People want to just take one Zoom class so they can see what it's like. Every Tuesday night, I do one and I work with people I've never worked with before, and it's free. So you can actually kick the tire and see what it's like. I don't know what else to do, America. I don't, the world actually, because I get people hitting me up. I train, of course,
Yeah,
classes are for people around the world. I don't know what else to do but to give you this experience, you know. So that's what we did.
and I love it, man. And I'm so appreciative for you. Not even just for taking time off to do this, but to
Hey,
what you've done for me over the last year, year and a half, however long I've been doing it with you.
I've noticed a huge change, brother. And I'm not just saying that for the TV world, but it's quite obvious. And I couldn't say it if I knew you didn't feel it. But I know you feel it because your work is so less complicated. It's so easy. It doesn't seem manufactured. You just feel like a real person going through real stuff. And, you know, you've been a really great student, man. So that's all on
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, man. That means the world coming from you.
The other night we had a great session. I know you.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. So
Yeah.
I was emailing my scene partner afterwards about it. Like, yeah, man. Like, it's cool because I come from like a sports world. I was an athlete, not the best athlete in the world, but I was an athlete growing up as a kid, and I you are, I would say, like a player's coach. Um, like you know exactly when to push, and you push the right buttons to get there, to get the best out of the actor, and you know how to explain it. You know how to break it down. You know the person you're dealing with. You're a people's person, and it goes such a long way, man. Like I'm the type of person, just push me, push me, push me, and you do. Like,
Yeah.
just to say, hey, good job, like does nothing for an actor. Like, yeah, actors, their ego saying they're all pretty much quarterbacks. Their
Yeah.
egos are very fragile, but like, if you can't take criticism, if you can't get coached, because your job is to make us better, to push us to
That's
be
right.
better.
But the trick is when you criticize is, that's why anytime I stop a scene, the words always come out of my mouth or no matter what's happening, I go, okay, great.
You do, yeah.
You know, my job isn't to kick people's asses and make them feel terrible.
No, you
Happens
do.
in a lot of classes. And I say to people, I say, look, you're paying me. Okay. So my job really is to be an advocate for you, somebody that's going to help you. Now I can be tough, but very supportive. Because guess what? You're going to eat your ass kicked outside plenty. And that's going to be for free. You don't even have to pay for that. From the moment you leave my studio until the next time I see you, life is going to jump you, man. So when you come in here, yes, I'm going to work you out like a great coach, but I have to tell you what you're doing right. And I have to tell you what you're doing wrong. And then we have to fix it now. And I have to give you solutions. I can't just say, well, you got to get better.
Right.
No, it's on me to tell you what you need to do to get better. And that is something I know I do well. So if there are any coaches out there, you want to have a major throwdown, I'll meet you anywhere, anytime. We'll have a teach off.
Hell yeah. I'd love to be the guinea pig for that, selfishly. That'd be awesome.
Anytime.
But Jeff, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you,
Um,
man. Pleasure.
I'll see you out there in the acting dojo.
Hey, buddy. Take care, man. Thank you so much.
Jeff Seymour, he's the man. Look, I think training is so important as an actor. It's kind of like, again, going to sports here. If you're an athlete, and you're not practicing at all, like you're not going to be in game shape. You're not going to be ready. You're not going to be ready to play under the lights. And the same with acting. If you're just using auditions as your opportunity to train, to work in your craft, then it's a disservice. Especially nowadays, right? There's not a whole lot of work going on right now for people. The competition's fierce. You have series regulars doing guest star work. You have guest stars doing co-stars. You have co-stars going back to doing background. Everyone's just trying to find a way to get by right now. And it's not necessarily going to be like that forever. But in the meantime, iron sharpens iron. So find that right trainer for you. For me, I personally recommend Jeff Seymour because he's worked wonders for me. As he said, Tuesday nights, free classes for people that he's never worked with before. But so many places offer chances for them for you to audit their classes. So don't wait. Be proactive in your career. Just because, like, oh, I'm not getting that many auditions, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, welcome to the club. A lot of us aren't getting as many auditions as we used to, not getting the same opportunities as we used to, but we become proactive about it. We work on our stuff because again, it's not gonna be like this forever. And when the opportunity does come, and it will come, you need to be ready. So that's my 2 cents. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you that tunes in, even if it's just for one episode, even if you're just watching just a few minutes of it, or even if you're just watching this clips I post to social media. Every one of you, I appreciate. Spread the word, please. Share, comment, like, subscribe, all those things. You can find us in all forms of social media, all forms where you find your podcasts. Beyond the Take on all forms of social media. Love you guys. Cheers.